All right, so now that we know what the 6 learning dimensions are, we have to look at how we evaluate each individual dimension for effectiveness in our classrooms. And what we're going to use to do that is just a basic rubric. Now what you see here is a blank template for all 6 learning dimensions. They all look very similar, and they're not as complicated as they may look. All you have to do is start in the upper left-hand corner and follow the arrows through the process. Now what you'll see on each learning dimension are a series of criteria in those diamond-shaped boxes that just match up with a yes or no question, and that's where those arrows come into play. You'll see more specifics on that when we break down our first learning dimension here in a little bit. But I want to walk you through, just like everything else, there's always some rules on how we use the tools, and these rubrics are no exception. For us, there are 3 rules we have to follow, so let's take a look at all 3. The first one is what we call the main requirement rule. This is just a simple yes or no question of, is whatever task we're looking at the main requirement for that dimension? And there are 2 ways we can answer yes to that question. The first way is looking at, is that where students are spending the most of their time and effort in that assignment? So if they're spending the majority of their time or the majority of their thought process or effort, that counts as main requirement. The other option though, and it's an or, it's not an and statement, it could be either one of these. The second option is that where the teacher is emphasizing the grading? So if the bulk of your assignment comes in at 70%, that counts as main requirement and you would answer yes. Remember, it's an or statement. One of these qualifies. You only have to answer yes to one. The second rule for our rubrics is a little easier, and it's called the evidence rule. Basically, when you code a lesson, you have to have evidence to support your reasoning. You can't just go on a hunch or a gut feeling. And there are 3 places you can take evidence from. The first place is the learning activity itself, and we would consider this your lesson plan. So if there is pure evidence in black and white in writing on that lesson plan, you can use that. Your second option is a cover sheet. A lot of our lessons will have a summary, like an executive summary of that lesson. You can pull evidence from there. The third option is any supplemental materials, including grading materials, handouts, worksheets, what have you. You can pull evidence from any of those locations, but it must be black and white. If you're not sure, that takes us to rule number 3. It's called the strict rule, and it's very simple. If you are in doubt of a coding, you must always choose the lower coding. So if you're on the fence between, this could be a 2, it could be a 3, you have to go with 2 because you don't have enough evidence to conclusively say it deserves the higher code. Now the last thing I want to emphasize too about the rubrics is the coding is important, but it's not the end-all be-all. What we're really after is the conversation and the metacognitive process of evaluating your lesson to ensure that we're at least thinking about these skills as we develop our plans and that we're doing so with purpose and with a clear objective in mind.